Where Winds Meet is a game that has attracted massive attention from the global gaming community in recent times. In terms of numbers, it is an undeniable success. On the very first day of its launch, it welcomed more than 200,000 concurrent players on Steam, an impressive milestone that any developer would dream of. Up to now, the game still maintains a very positive rating with nearly 90% approval from tens of thousands of players, proving that it has satisfied the vast majority of casual gamers, especially in the Asian market. However, behind this warm reception is a completely different picture coming from Western gaming press. These outlets often give it only average scores, with IGN rating it just 6/10, making Where Winds Meet one of the most controversial games of the year. This huge disparity raises a crucial question. Why is there such a stark contrast in how this game is evaluated? Is this a case of critics getting it wrong, or is this divide essentially a cultural clash and a conflict of expectations? Through this video, we will dive deep into analyzing the true origin of this division, from misunderstandings about Asian live service games to Western expectations of a standalone AAA masterpiece. The root of all the controversy lies in the game's own identity crisis. When Where Winds Meet first appeared publicly at Gamescom 2022, it painted a completely different picture. The trailer showcased a highly cinematic Chinese martial arts world, with realistic and mesmerizing graphics, alongside a visually stunning combat system requiring precise timing for sword slashes, parries, and the use of Qinggong or Tai Chi techniques. These visuals immediately reminded the global audience of high-end action RPG blockbusters, such as Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice or Ghost of Tsushima, creating massive expectations that this would be a hardcore offline ARPG, action role-playing game. However, the official release followed a completely different design and business model. Instead of a traditional ARPG, the community received a typical live service game. The user interface became packed with daily tasks, progression charts, stamina systems, gacha mechanics, and an in-game shop. All of these elements were completely foreign to the expectations of a pure RPG experience, but very familiar to players accustomed to popular online service games in Asia. Additionally, Where Winds Meet continued to cause serious misunderstanding about its genre, even among major media outlets. They called the game an MMO because it contains many familiar multiplayer RPG mechanics, such as factions, mentorship systems, and community activities. But in reality, once players experience it, they quickly realize that its multiplayer nature is centered mainly around co-op, rather than building a lively virtual society with an economy and complex profession systems. The core elements of a traditional MMORPG are either entirely absent or appear only in their most minimal form, such as professions that exist only for small recreational purposes and lack depth. This mismatch is exactly what led Western critics to feel deeply disappointed. They expected either a martial arts-themed World of Warcraft or a Chinese version of Ghost of Tsushima with polished gameplay, but instead received a hybrid product, an MMO light that is neither a true RPG nor a proper MMO. This became the starting point for the wave of negative reviews and the clear divide between those critics and the players who accepted and enjoyed this live service model. After identifying the true nature of the game as a live service with co-op elements, we continue to dive into the open world design, where one of the biggest controversies arises. Where Winds Meet is set during the real historical period of the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms of China, creating a vast world for players to freely explore. This world is filled with countless activities, from ancient secrets and complex side quest chains to environmental puzzles and gatherable resources. However, the developer's choice of map design is what caused deep division. By default, Where Winds Meet applies an extremely guided approach. Everything from puzzle locations, resource nodes, martial arts techniques to hidden mysteries is clearly marked on the map. For Western critics and players who enjoy high-end ARPGs, this design is heavily criticized. They call it checklist gaming, or Ubisoft-style design. They argue that marking everything openly kills the thrill of exploration and wastes the potential of such a large open world. These critics value the philosophy of organic discovery, where players must investigate, connect clues, and experience that explosive feeling when finding treasures on their own, similar to the standards set by games like Elden Ring or The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. From this perspective, the world of Where Winds Meet, although large, lacks depth because players only need to run to a marked icon to receive rewards. On the other hand, for the majority of casual players, especially those familiar with online and live service games in Asia, this detailed guidance is seen as an extremely valuable convenience. They argue that not everyone has the time or desire to get lost in a maze of mysteries after a long day of work. Their goal is often to optimize their time and complete tasks efficiently to enjoy the story or the combat system. In the free-to-play ecosystem, efficiency and the sense of completion matter more than absolute freedom. In fact, even other major games have had to add resource marking systems due to community demand. In short, the controversy over the open world of Where Winds Meet does not lie in whether the map is well made or not, but in the difference in reference frames. Critics use the standards of high-end AAA games, valuing freedom and personal discovery, while the developers apply the formula of a live service game, focusing on efficiency and a goal-driven experience. The polarization in the evaluation of Where Winds Meet continues to extend into the storytelling and progression system. The main storyline follows a typical wuxia-style narrative, beginning at a fairly slow pace, though spending considerable time introducing the world and its background before moving into more intense developments. Although this pacing may discourage some players during the first few hours, as the mysteries surrounding the protagonist's identity begin to unfold, the level of engagement and dramatic tension improves significantly. However, the way the game builds its characters and develops events becomes a major point of heated debate. Where Winds Meet emphasizes chivalry and unexpected fortunate encounters. In many cases, the protagonist can form friendships or receive valuable martial arts manuals after just a short duel to exchange skills. For Western critics, those who have little or no exposure to classic wuxia culture, this style of storytelling is seen as illogical, lacking emotional buildup and lacking psychological depth, as characters suddenly become close right after confronting each other. In contrast, for Asian audiences familiar with the tropes of no fight, no acquaintance, and the spirit of all men within the four seas are brothers, this character-building approach feels authentic and true to traditional martial arts storytelling. The biggest annoyance for critics is the time gating of the main story. The main storyline only unlocks when the player reaches a certain solo mode level. The issue is that this level is capped daily, forcing players to wait, sometimes up to 8 to 9 days, to continue the story, even if they have already earned enough experience. Players accustomed to unrestricted single-player games immediately see this as a blatant time-locking mechanic that breaks narrative flow and immersion. However, most of the live service community defends this system, viewing it as a common progression wall that prevents players from leveling too quickly, 24/7, and ensures they spend time engaging with other content in the world. Additionally, the story ending abruptly is not unusual. It is a hallmark of live service games designed to maintain curiosity for future story updates. Clearly, the conflict once again lies in expectations. One side wants a premium game with a complete and cohesive story, while the other accepts the live service model, where content is sliced into segments and released on a schedule. If there is one aspect where Winds Meet receives broad agreement, it is its core combat system. The game's combat is heavily influenced by Sekiro, shown through its satisfying weapon clashes, the shared stance bar for both players and enemies, and the precise, essential parry mechanic. Many players and analysts have praised its quality, stating that it comes close to the standards set by From Software's action games. To support less skilled players, the developers even added an assist deflection option so everyone can enjoy the intense battles. However, even in combat, conflict still arises. The biggest issue lies in the game's fully online nature. For a system built around parry, where timing is measured in frames, network stability is crucial. High ping easily leads to inaccurate parries, creating a sense of unfairness and inconsistency compared to offline RPGs that do not suffer from latency risks. Moreover, Western critics also attack the power progression system, claiming it is too similar to an MMO. Instead of focusing purely on individual skill, the game stacks numerous buffs and abilities, causing many late-game boss fights to become stat checks rather than true skill checks, diminishing the value of an otherwise excellent Sekiro-like combat system. Meanwhile, in terms of side activities, Where Winds Meet builds an open world filled with countless interactive systems and minigames. Life activities such as fishing, healing, using a card-based minigame, environmental puzzles, and traditional Eastern cultural games like poetry matching, flute playing, and chess are spread densely across the map. Western critics describe Where Winds Meet as a case of jack of all trades, master of none. They argue that these minigames are too simple, lacking depth, and sometimes inconsistent, such as the stealth system, reducing the level of challenge they expect. In contrast, most casual players see these mini-games as relaxing side dishes. Their goal is not to struggle with fishing or solving puzzles, but to find entertainment and relaxation after work. Therefore, they do not view the simplicity of these activities as a major flaw, but as the necessary flavor of a large open world. Thus, the debates surrounding the combat mechanics and side activities continue to reflect the conflict between expectations of depth and expectations of breadth. One side seeks tight, groundbreaking gameplay, while the other simply wants a world that is wide enough, diverse enough, and entertaining enough. The final barrier, and also the most crucial reason behind the difference in player experience between regions, is the issue of user interface, UI, and localization quality. Looking at the screen of Where Winds Meet for Western critics, it is a nightmare. They call the interface a chaotic mess, or something that looks like a cheap mobile game. They come from a gaming culture where HUD elements such as health bars and minimaps in titles like Ghost of Tsushima or God of War are hidden as elegantly as possible to preserve immersion and cinematic quality. When they see countless event tabs, constantly blinking red dots, and a screen packed with icons, their natural reaction is rejection. However, for Asian players, this UI barrier is easily accepted. Many gamers grew up with screens full of information in long-standing online games. Their brains have developed an automatic trash filter. Red dots are not annoyances, but signals of free rewards or new content to explore. This cultural tolerance difference means the same interface can feel overwhelming to one group while feeling convenient and familiar to another. If the UI barrier is confusing, the poor localization makes the experience outright frustrating. When Where Winds Meet launched its international version, much of the content remained in Chinese, especially in puzzles or gameplay mechanics that require specific cultural knowledge, such as formation-breaking challenges. These elements are very familiar in Chinese culture, but completely foreign to international players. This forces those who do not know Chinese to search for external guides, interrupting the flow of the experience. In addition, the translation itself lacks consistency and professionalism. Some characters have names translated in a very Western style, which feels out of place in an ancient Chinese setting, and certain terms are translated differently across regions. The English voiceover is also criticized by the international community for being emotionless, lacking soul, and often not matching the characters' lip movements. There are even cases where the spoken dialogue and the subtitles do not match. All of these issues make the story and world-building experience for players outside of China feel taxing and incomplete, contributing greatly to the negative reviews from critics who demand absolute consistency in presentation. In conclusion, the controversies surrounding Where Winds Meet do not simply come from misunderstandings, but from a true collision between expectations and reality. More broadly, a clash between different cultural gaming frameworks. Many players entered the game expecting a next-generation ARPG like Sekiro, but received a supported multiplayer-style experience instead. Many expected the spirit of Ghost of Tsushima, but were met with a live service model. However, despite receiving criticism from reviewers, Everstone Studios' creations still achieved a rare accomplishment. It elevated the quality of free-to-play games to a new level. It offers a massive open world, a high-quality combat system, and an experience approaching AAA standards, while being completely free. The 89% positive rating from over 40,000 players on Steam is the clearest proof that Where Winds Meet has excelled in satisfying players seeking a rich wuxia-style adventure, despite the barriers in design and localization. Additionally, they have just released the mobile version for both Android and iOS. I am currently playing on the mobile version, but I'm using an emulator because I cannot download the PC version. It's too large. But running it on an Android emulator works well and is smooth enough, as you can see. How about you? What do you think about this cultural clash? Is Where Winds Meet a victim of mismatched expectations, or is it simply a good live service game being judged too harshly by Western critics? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. We would love to hear your perspective on this topic. And if you enjoy in-depth game analysis, discussions about cultural intersections in the global gaming industry, and want to stay updated on upcoming game explorations, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell. It helps our channel grow and allows us to bring even more high-quality content to you. Thank you for watching,